Hi everyone, it's Leilani. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be working on the next 5 prompts for my childhood documented album. So if you haven't checked out my previous video, I'll link it below, but I've already worked on the first 5 prompts. I created a prompt list. I've shared it on Instagram. I will also link that below if you'd like to take a look. But the basic point of this is just to create a fun little mini album, layouts, whatever you want, to document some of the fun memories from your childhood. I'm going with a lot of pop culture type things because I'm into that personally. And mine are all 90s themed because that's whenever I grew up in the 90s. But of course, you could make this work for you in any way that you want. But for these 5 prompts this time, I actually did them a little out of order from the prompt list and in my book. So I'm going to go by the way they are in the book. And the reason why I did that was because whenever I started to figure out which pictures I wanted to use, I just thought that the way that I did these prompts just looked nicer because it kind of had a mix of both layouts that had several pictures and layouts that just had one large photo, and I just kind of wanted it to flow better this way. But the first prompt that we're doing is fashion icon. So for me, I decided that my fashion icon from the 90s was Clarissa Darling from Clarissa Explains It All. So I was a huge Clarissa fan. I loved Melissa Joan Hart in general, and I was a big fan of Clarissa, big fan of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So I had the Clarissa board game. I just adored her, and I had the Sabrina Barbie doll, and I remember her hand moved and was magnetic so you could cast spells, and I just loved it all. But Clarissa was definitely a huge fashion icon for me, even to today. That's what a lot of my journaling says. I think that she kind of shaped the way that I have dressed throughout my life, and I just adore her and the show and her whole entire vibe. So I knew I wanted to do something about her in this album. I loved, of course, I'm still using the Vicky Bouton color study paper, and I loved this daisy print. I just thought it worked so well with that sort of fashion vibe from the 90s. So I just loved it. And as you can see, a lot of these pages will be very similar. So I'm not going to explain everything that I'm doing because I'm sure you've got it down. But before the video, I did cut out my paper to be the correct size, and I'd already used my different Heidi Swap stamp sets and created my titles and printed off my journaling. So then I could just easily assemble the book on camera. So the next prompt that we are working on is going to be Nickelodeon Shows. So once again, I feel like most people that grew up in the 90s, this would be a prompt everyone could do, Nickelodeon Shows. I mean, Nickelodeon was like thebomb.com in the 90s. So I think everyone watched these types of shows, but this was one that I was excited to do. So on my previous video, the TGIF shows, I didn't want to include anything from Nickelodeon because they just needed their own page in general. So I loved using a lot of orange on here, but I did like breaking it up with the paper that kind of has a little orange edge, but then also brings in some green and yellow from some of my photos. So I really liked the way that that looked. There's a lot of purple within these photos as well, so I decided to stamp out my title in purple and black. So some of the shows that I included, of course, I just did a picture of Snick because that was everything in the early 90s especially. And then I have Alex Mack, Are You Afraid of the Dark, The Mystery Files of Shelby Woo, All That, Salute Your Shorts, Pete and Pete, Hey Dude, and Clarissa. So super fun, and I really loved getting all of these together. So once again, I just saved all of these photos just from Googling. I just saved them onto my phone, and then I airdropped them to my computer. So just super easy. And all of these pictures I printed off at a 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch square. And I really like the way that this looks. And once again, if you haven't watched the first video, for some of the photos, such as that last one of Clarissa, I found a picture by Googling that I thought was a decent quality, because I didn't want it to be blurry whenever I made it this full size whenever I printed it, because I think this size is like maybe a maybe 5.5 or a little less by 7 or so. So the book isn't very big, but if you picked out the wrong photo by Googling, it could be blurry. So I just picked out a crisp image, and then I went to the Photo Room app and I removed the background. So that's how my picture was just all white in the background, which I just think creates a kind of cleaner image in my album and also works well with all of the color from the stamping, from the paper, the stickers, all of that. Then, of course, on all the pages, after I get everything adhered down, I like to sprinkle on all of my stickers. So this has been really fun, and I love doing this because it just reminds me of an actual notebook or little scrapbook that I would have made whenever I was growing up. So I really enjoy doing that. And then I've been just using some of my star punches of different sizes and going ahead and punching out a few stars and things just to add in those colors that match very well. And then I'm using my little Jelly Roll white pen to do some outlining and maybe some little dots and additional doodles around the page, just little bits here and there, but I think that really kind of finishes off the layout. I'm going to add a couple more over here to this picture just because that Clarissa picture is so white and there's that added space. So I just thought it would be cute to bring a couple stars over here to this side. And then I think I'm pretty much done. I'm probably just trying to decide if I want to add any more stickers. I was kind of sad because I ended up using all of my favorite stickers, the fuzzy smiley faces from Pip Sticks. I used all of them on the previous prompts, so I've ordered like 3 more packs. So I'm not using any in here in this section, but you will see those come back because I can't finish the book without having those fuzzy smiley faces. They're just too cute. So then my next prompt is going to be favorite book. So this could be one book, this could be a book series. I mean, whatever it is that you wanted to do. I, of course, wanted to talk about The Babysitter's Club, which was definitely my favorite book series as a child. And also my favorite character was Claudia. I mean, hands down, she was everything to me growing up. So what I decided to do was I found this cute book cover. It was a nice quality image. I liked the pink, and of course Claudia was on the cover, so I thought that was perfect. So I printed that off to be a full-size image as well, and then I paired it with this really pretty pattern on the opposite side, and then I'm going to spell out fave books, and then I have a little colon, and then I have Babysitter's Club, BSC. And my journaling. So in my journaling, I just talk about how these books always really resonated with me as a child. But even today, I've read a few of them again. And also, I read an awesome book called We Are the Babysitter's Club. That's about grown-up people who were affected by the Babysitter's Club books and just all of the awesome stories about it. And there are some takeaways of these being from the late 80s, early 90s that of course would be different these days, but as a whole, I feel like the book series still does hold up very well. And this has just been such a thread throughout my life, The Babysitter's Club. I read the books, I watched the version of the TV show on the Disney Channel. I was obsessed with the movie in 1995, and I'm sure that will come up here in this album later. I had the computer game, like we've already talked about. I have loved the Babysitter's Club my entire life, and I definitely had to give them a place in this album. So I'm once again sprinkling on my stickers here and going to add my journaling. I tried to cut out, some of that because really with a book like this, I love to just have all of the kind of boring parts already completed and then we can just assemble it together like we're doing here. So it's a lot of the same thing. I'm mostly just gluing things down and then adding on some stickers and some small embellishments. So I liked these kind of larger stars. I thought that those were pretty cool, and I'm just doing my little doodling inside there, and then that one is going to be finished. So once again, just please remember with these prompts, this is just to get your creative juices flowing. It's just so that you can get ideas on things that you want to document. But if you do want to follow along with me or try to make any of these albums or prompts yourself, just know you can always change them. And this one is the perfect example. So as I was making my prompt list, as I was writing this one, I thought, should I do this? Because obviously everyone is not going to relate to this album prompt, which is Disney Channel original movies. And I know that that's kind of a very specific topic. So you could change that topic into anything that you want. But for me personally, Disney Channel in general and Disney Channel original movies were like everything. Like I always had the Disney Channel growing up. I think I lived really far out, like in the boonies, in the country. And I think in order to get cable, we had to have the Disney Channel as a part of our package. So I just always had it growing up. And one thing that I adored and could not wait for was the Disney Channel original movie of the month. So they would have a new movie a month and it would come on like on a Friday or Saturday night. And my friend Amanda, who's been my friend like my entire childhood and to now, we would just be so excited about this movie, and we would have our whole weekend planned after this movie. So I put a few of my favorites over there. If I have any other Disney Channel original movie fans, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear some of your favorites. My top would be Johnny Tsunami, Smart House, Halloween Town, and Xenon, of course, Girl of the 21st Century. So those were some of my favorites, and I think those are some of the most popular ones. But so I printed these photos off, I think at about a 1.5 by 2 inch little rectangle, because I wanted to get the entire movie poster for these. And if you notice, my title is a little like, it almost looks distressed. I used like a chalk ink. I was trying that out and I think it looks fine. I mean, if I was doing this again, I may have just used my darker ink, that the Catherine Pooler one that's just like a more saturated ink, but it doesn't bother me. This book is so like mixed media looking, even though I didn't do mixed media, but the paper, the Vicky Bouton paper, just really has that mixed media vibe. So I think it still goes well and doesn't really bother me. But so if you got to this prompt and you were like, I've never watched a Disney Channel original movie in my life, of course you could change that to be anything that you enjoyed. I've been listening to this podcast called the Cool Kids Club podcast, and you should check it out if you're into like 90s nostalgia as well. But for instance, they just had a 2-part episode on like the wrestling shows and WWE and WWF, whatever it was called, from the 90s. So let's say that you loved wrestling in the 90s. You could just totally forget about this topic of the Disney Channel original movies and talk about, you know, your favorite wrestlers. Or if you loved horror movies, you could talk about your favorite 90s horror movies. Or if you know, played sports, you could talk about your favorite sports teams. Or, you know, you could change this up to be something that's not even close to the prompt. I really just was sharing my prompts because I was going to do this project regardless. And I thought it would be fun to make a prompt list and maybe get other people excited to document their childhood. So just remember, please don't ever feel like stifled by the things that I chose, because you are able to do anything that you want. And I know that you know that, but I am just giving you permission, as I've heard people say, to just go crazy with it, use your imagination, and document anything that you feel is important and you want to document about your childhood. So this last prompt I thought was really fun as well. This one is your 90s BFF, best friend. So for me, this took a little bit because I had so many people that I just loved that I thought were so iconic, but I ended up going with Lisa Turtle from Saved by the Bell. So Saved by the Bell is a show that like is synonymous to me with my childhood. Like I watched this show so much and I have loved it into my adulthood. There's a lot of things that are problematic, but I can't help but adore this show. And there's been so many things that just always bring me back to it. And there's another podcast that I love called Go Bayside. It's a little older at this point, but it is amazing. And it's so funny and fun. They poke fun at the show, but also it comes from a place of love, you know, and they go through each episode and kind of talk about it. And it's just such a good show. I was going to say show, but a good podcast. So if you're a Saved by the Bell fan, you should definitely check that out. It's called Go Bayside. But okay, I know I'm just rambling on, but this is like my favorite topic of all time, so I can just chat forever about 90s nostalgia, pop culture stuff. But once again, first of all, I love this paper from Vicky Boutin. I bought like 10 sheets of it. It's my favorite. And you'll see at the very end of this video, I also covered the album off camera with this same heart print. I just love it so much. But with this picture of Lisa Turtle, I found this just by Googling, and then I took it into that photo room app. I removed the background, and so it was perfectly white, and then I just sized it to what I wanted. So now I have a nice crisp image, and I have a lot of space to fill up with stickers and whatever else that I want to decorate the spread. So I know it's kind of hard to read her name inside of that circle, but off camera, it's really not. You can see it fine. So it says 90s Bestie, Lisa Turtle. I really like the way that ended up looking with the 90s Bestie around the circle. And then once again, I'm going to add in my journaling, and then we will decorate the picture of Lisa with a lot of embellishments. So anyway, if you are interested in this, if you've enjoyed it, I would love any feedback. I would love to hear things about your childhood. I would love if you at all are doing this project, I would love to see it. So if you take pictures and show them on Instagram or anything, if you're not already following me, please do. My Instagram handle is Leilani_scraps. And I would love it if you would tag me and let me see the things that you are creating. I'm super interested to see who people would choose for all of these different topics. So definitely, if you ever decide to do anything similar to this, please let me know. But I love how my album's turning out. I love that I decided to use the Heidi Swapp Storyline Chapters album, but it's actually the mini album. So like I said, it's just a little over like a 5x7. So it's not that big at all. And so it just seems really easy to do something like this. I realize you may not want to have a whole big scrapbook of something like a topic like your childhood pop culture, but it's really fun. It's just an easy little mini book, and it's so fun to flip through, and it just makes me happy. It's super colorful. It's filled with stickers. It has nice little journaling that takes me back to, different stories from my life, and I just find it really fun. So I think that it's important to tell these stories. And one thing that I do love about this album is that you don't need any actual photos from your childhood. If you're like me, I don't have a lot of them, especially as I got older and I was like a tween or a teenager, young teen. So it's really nice to just find pictures online and scrap it. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like, and please also consider subscribing, and I will be back at you next week with the next 5 prompts in this childhood documented album. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, guys.